Welcome to newlytrading.com. News on some of the newest publicly traded companies on the TSXV, OTC, and on the CSE exchanges. Newly Trading is brought to you by thenewswire.com, the most affordable newswire service in North America. Get started with your free trial. Not just any wire. We are thenewswire.com. Today we're talking with Louis Reford, CEO of Reservoir Capital Corp. Their trading symbol is REO on the CSE. Good morning, Louis.
Good morning, Jim.
Louis, let's start with maybe you sharing a little bit of your public market background, and then if you could give us a little bit of history on Reservoir Capital.
Well, I'm a corporate finance and an energy professional. I've spent a good amount of my time on the investment banking, corporate finance side, working primarily with JP Morgan in their international operations and in their Toronto office. And I transitioned into the renewable energy space about 10 years ago. Been covering both the power space and some of the really energy intensive industries in Canada, like the paper and aluminum industry. And it became absolutely clear that some great value was hidden in some venerable companies who had hydro assets, who had biomass assets, and obviously with the newer technologies like geothermal and solar. And so that took me into that space, and I've been associated with helping smaller entrepreneurial companies really find their way in the choppy capital markets in and around clean power for the last decade. And that's where I've come across Reservoir Capital as a company. I've served on the board of directors since 2011, and we've just recently done a pivot away from greenfield project development for Reservoir to concentrate on investing in existing power assets in a global context. So these would be hydro or geothermal plants primarily in places like Africa and Latin America. You have hydro, you have geothermal, which are operating, which we believe can be can have their value surfaced on a public markets basis with some nimble corporate finance transactions.
That kind of takes us into your announcement that Reservoir just completed a 60% acquisition in Kenji Power Holding Limited. Can you kind of break that deal out for us, and what what does that do for Reservoir?
So with the Kenji hydro acquisition, we've cut straight to an operating asset. This is a tremendous pair of dams. In fact, it's not just one. Kenji owns two dams on the Niger River. These are dams which have been operating very successfully for over 2 decades. The Reservoir was selected as a publicly listed company where a small minority interests could be backed into a public company. So, our investment thesis on the Reservoir side is to do more transactions like the Kenji Power transaction, where we're going to be basically clipping dividend coupons from exceedingly well diligenced clean power assets, those that can be brought into a Canadian investor's portfolio on a tax efficient basis. So we're now looking forward to opening our pipeline to multiple transactions of this type. We expect to be able to grow the company on a going forward basis.
Well, if people would like more information on the company, and if they'd like to get in touch with you, how did they do that?
Reservoir Capital Corp.com is our website. REO is our ticker on the CSE. So REO-CN is how you can follow the stock trading. And I'm readily available at reservoircap.team, TEAM.
Well, thank you, Louis, for taking some time to give us some background on Reservoir Capital. That was Louis Reford, CEO of Reservoir Capital Corp. Their trading symbol is REO on the CSE. That's it for this episode of newlytrading.com, the podcast. News on some of the newest publicly traded companies on the TSXV, OTC, and on the CSE exchanges. Newly Trading is brought to you by thenewswire.com, the most affordable newswire service in North America. Get started with your free trial. Not just any wire. We are thenewswire.com. NewlyTrading.com and this podcast are solely intended for information purposes. If you're considering investing in securities, always consult a professional advisor. I'm Jim Ripley.